Sponsored by the Big 98, Nashville's #1 for new country and the home of the Bobby Bones Show.
The Rocker Review is thrilled to have on an incredible guitarist, composer, and also a columnist for magazines. Plus, he's been featured in over 700 Japanese TV shows and I believe 4 movies. It is Marty Friedman. Marty, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, very nice to be with you, Eric.
You know, it's great to have you on, especially after listening to your brand new album, the third one in your trilogy, Tokyo Jukebox 3, which just came out in April. What an incredible album. Very diverse songs on here, Marty.
Thank you very much. I'm glad you like it. I mean, it's especially if you're in Nashville, it's quite a change of pace from normal, what you imagine of Nashville. But definitely I grew up with American music and I put my own spin on Japanese music on this thing. So I'm really glad that you liked it and hope people in your area dig it as well.
I'm sure they will, because, you know, we've got plenty of metal people here in shredders in and around Nashville also. And obviously the way you came up, and I got to bring this up to where, you know, what really got you started in the whole music realm was going to a Kiss concert, right?
I was 13 and I saw Kiss and that changed everything. I wanted to play sports more than anything. The second I saw Kiss, I knew there was no way I was going to play sports. And I want to do what those guys are doing.
Right. And I think you achieved that, and you're pretty well self-taught, right, too, Marty?
Pretty much, yeah. I started with some lessons at the beginning, but then I kind of went on my own way and I was kind of rebellious and I didn't like what the teacher was saying. And I didn't realize that he was only saying good stuff until a couple of years later. I realized, hey, he was really onto something. So,
well, you know, and you really came to be known within the guitar world. And certainly for a very unique style, which I enjoy, but, you know, playing with Jason Becker and in the earlier band, Cacophony?
Close enough, yeah.
Yeah, to where you were with Jason in that band for 3 years, and then you 10 years with Megadeth.
Yes.
Well, and I'll tell you what, you know, your recording career with Megadeth also on those albums, you had a long run and did some incredible work. And I just remember you were all over the guitar magazines then, Marty, you know, just from all the stuff you were doing with Megadeth.
Sure. It was a great 10 years, you know. It was a good starting point to what I'm doing now. I mean, certainly can't complain about a minute of it.
No, and you were still doing solo albums then as well. And then as we were talking about with your new album that released in April, Tokyo Jukebox 3, it's interesting to me, you know, I brought this up before we started the interview with Echo, to where it started out with like a radio show at the beginning of it. And it's like going, maybe I'm not listening to the right song or something. And then I realized it was part of the song.
Yeah. Well, your voice, coincidentally enough, sounds a little bit like that voice in the intro to Echo. You know what I'm saying? It sounds like that voice, and that's the exact, it's just a very understandable, exciting kind of like radio voice that we've all grown up with. And I wanted to really send the point across that this sounds like the guy getting into the car, slamming the door and driving to some really cranking tunes. Because, you know, that's where I grew up listening to music more than any place else was in the car. And so for whatever reason, when I was doing that song, I felt that way. So I wanted to tag out a radio intro. And you're the first guy to mention it to me. So I'm excited today about that.
Well, that's great, because it really caught my ear. Really, you know, when I was listening, I was like listening to the entire album, I'm like going, wait a minute, I had to go back and listen to that again. Well, and also the epic final song, with the Japan Heritage official theme that you created. That's pretty epic. That's almost like Trans-Siberian stuff.
I wrote and composed that whole thing with the Tokyo Philharmonic Orchestra in mind, and then they played it with me and we recorded it, and it's the official theme song commissioned by the government of Japan. And it's used at like political events and symposiums and things that are way over my head. But it was just a wonderful honor. And I was made an ambassador to Japan Heritage in 2017. And I think one of the reasons for that was because they wanted me to come up with this piece of music.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just blown away because there's a million wonderful Japanese composers who could have done a great job with such a project. But I was asked to do it, and now it's on the record. So I'm really, it's kind of out of sync of Tokyo Jukebox 3 because that's all cover songs. Right. But I wanted to end it with my own song, and so I'm glad that you pointed it out, and I love it. It was a labor of love. It was hard work, but I love doing it.
Well, I got to bring this up too, Marty. The album cover is eye-catching, and I couldn't help but think of the teenage you going to the Kiss concert, and then with the makeup and everything, the costume on the cover of this is actually Heritage, and you went to a lot of trouble. How long did it take, for the full outfit and the makeup and everything for this album cover?
It was insane. Thankfully, we had people who were really, really the top flight people who know how to do that exactly right. Because if you mess something like that up, you're just going to look like an idiot on Halloween or something. It's really, really fragile line between coolness and absolutely sucking. And so I was very concerned about that because I always think it's funny when non-Japanese people do like traditional Japanese outfits and things like that, kabuki makeup and stuff. So it's very, very, very touchy, but they did a great job. It took a long time to get the whole thing exactly like they wanted. If you notice, if you know anything about deep Japanese stuff, even deeper than what I know, the things that I'm wearing don't necessarily go together. It's a woman's kimono and it's a male's kabuki type makeup, but it's kind of modernized. It's a very, what do you call it? It's all mixed together. It's a mutt of stuff that just worked. And they had to have the imagination to mix those things. You won't see a traditional Japanese image that looks exactly like that because it doesn't exist. So it was a thrill to do, but it was extremely hot. And this was like right sort of at the beginning of COVID and stuff. So they had to like keep all of the windows open in the hot summer. And it was just a long, long day. And but it was a fantastic experience. And actually, I shot a music video in that outfit and I couldn't keep the sweat from pouring off me. So it's just like, it was because I'm wearing these two extremely heavy kimonos. It looks like one, but I'm wearing another one inside it, almost like a sumo outfit. And it was huge. So my guitar was like 3 feet away from me. I could barely play it. But we shot this music video. And I just remember it being so incredibly hard to play with all that heavy weight on me. I thought of Kiss in a brand new light at that time because they do stuff like that all the time, every day. And they're like a million years old and doing it. So like, big props for that. But it was a wonderful experience. And it came out, to me, it looks like something from the 70s. It looks like it's kind of made for vinyl more than a CD cover, I think.
Which I appreciated because obviously, producer Casey and myself are huge vinyl fans, but I thought it looked so authentic. And also with the blending of styles and everything, it reminded me, Marty, of the way you have blended your solos and are so well known for blending Western and Eastern scales and tonalities. And a lot of times within your solos, I hear the microtones and everything that a lot of people don't use, and you put them in seamlessly.
Thank you very much for noticing that. I think if I had to describe something of my playing that is a little bit different from other guitarists, it would be that I grew up learning music from other parts of the world rather than all of the guitar heroes. Most people will rattle off kind of the same names, the great guitarists, and they're certainly worthy of all of that acclaim. But for whatever reason, when I was in my late teens and I started developing, I kind of strayed away from that. And I went more into like Japanese traditional music and Chinese traditional music and Persian music and Indian music and things that have kind of different phrasings, different tonalities, different melodic concepts all together. but I was still a hard rocker. So how do I mix that together? It's been like a career of building on that. So to have you notice that out there in Nashville, it makes me feel good.
Well, and I think that's what differentiates you so much with your guitar style. And I want to bring up too that just in time, you've been with Jackson and with Engel amplifiers for a long time. And you've got, correct me if I'm wrong, is it 2 new models or 1 new model right now?
I've got a model of guitar, a signature model of guitar, the MF1 from Jackson. And I've got the signature model from Engel, which is the Marty Friedman Inferno.
Right.
And I've been using those religiously ever since they came out, and it's all over the record, and couldn't be prouder to have such solid signature models. It's an honor that, any company would care enough to do such a thing. But then again, it's my responsibility that if I'm going to put my name on it, it's got to be something that I actually really want to play above everything else. And then when I was recording Tokyo Jukebox 3, Jackson was sending me prototypes. We're still in the building stage. And one thing that's important is the Pro Series is very reasonably priced. Mm-hmm. And the USA model is quite expensive, to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. And I am completely aware that most people don't want to spend $4,000 on a guitar. So my point is that the reasonable model has to be very much comparable to the expensive one. It has to, you can't say, well, now I know why it's cheap. And so I spent almost the entire recording session putting up the Pro Series to the USA Series and making sure that I could barely tell the difference when I played on it and what I heard coming out of it. So that's where Jackson put a lot of energy in. And, it's a different era than it was 10 years ago. When you have instruments built in another country, there's a lot more control that the main country has over that foreign country's factories.
Right.
In 10, 15 years ago, you had no quality control to the level that they have now. So you can be a lot more comfortable buying something that was made in another country and being impressed with it than it was like years ago. So I feel fine about having 2 models out at the same time when I know that most people are going to want to buy the cheaper model, and I cannot blame them. So I want the cheaper model to be, at least comparable. Sometimes I can't even tell the difference. And a lot of times what is different in the USA model is just certain parts.
Right.
Certain parts are more expensive. And sometimes those parts are not necessary for people who are not professionals. If you're at home, or if you're playing on YouTube, or if you're playing like in a local band, you're not flying on airplanes every day. You're not changing climates every day. You're not changing strings every day. So some of these parts that are super expensive just don't really apply. So you're getting pretty much the same guitar for a way, way less price. So this is something I concentrated on very much.
Well, and also, Marty, I got to say, I think it speaks to a lot of your fan base, which is global and international, who, a lot of younger, musicians, as you and I both know, when we were younger, we couldn't afford the higher end instruments. So I think with the Pro Series, that gives them a gateway in to be able to play an instrument very similar to what you use on tour and in the studio.
Very much. And I do play it on tour. I play the Pro Series on tour. I have it in my rack, and I'm actually doing a television program tomorrow with the Pro Series.
Wow.
So yeah, I have absolutely no problem interchanging them. That was the standard that I had to do. I didn't want to be like I play the Pro, but you guys can play I play the American one, but you guys can play the Pro. I didn't want that at all. Right. And yeah, you'll see. I mean, there's tons of people on the internet doing reviews of it, and all you have to do is search it, and you'll hear it. And actually,
I'm putting my hands on both of them.
Yeah, and please tell me what you think. I mean, I played the Pro Series on a lot of the videos I've done on YouTube and my social media, mainly because just literally for the fact that I have a Pro Series at home, and my US Series is at the studio, and I'm too lazy to go to the studio to get it.
Well, I got to ask you this, Marty. I heard rumor that there may be a documentary in the works. Is there any truth to this rumor?
It's definitely true. And it's been going on since 2016.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they've been filming on and off. Mostly around 2019, they got the bulk of it together. When I did my first real tour of America in 2016, after being in Japan for like 10 years, that's what they covered at the beginning. And then they came to Japan and did the main segment. And all they had left to shoot was the very ending. And then Corona hit. So that kind of I was supposed to play, I've been playing the Tokyo Marathon opening ceremony for the last 4 years. And I was slated to play in 2020, and the film crew was going to come to Japan and film that, and that was going to be the big ending and then possibly in the Olympics. I was not confirmed, but there were some things that I could have done in the Olympics. The film crew was all planned to come out for any of that stuff to make a final ending to the movie, and that kind of put the kibosh on that. And so, the next time we get a chance to film together, they're going to put the ending on it, and it'll be good to go. But the meat and potatoes of it is done, and I really, really like it.
I can't wait to see it. Hopefully released later this year or possibly early 2022.
I would say summer of 2022, because I'm probably going to do some international touring before then, and that will make a nice backdrop for the ending of it.
Yeah, how incredible. I want to make sure also, Marty, that our viewers know where to go to keep up with you for your upcoming tours and stuff, with everything else you've got going. Obviously, seeing the videos with you, the new album out now, Tokyo Jukebox 3. Where do our viewers need to go, Marty?
Any place on social media, my website, martyfriedman.com, or the typical social media things, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all that. And the record is something I'm very proud of, and I cannot wait to play it in America. I mean, that's the big thrill for me, because a lot of people don't know the original versions, and they don't know my version. So they just think it's my song.
Right.
They just think these are my songs because I've made them sound like my music. And to some extent it is my music, but then if I can be like the bridge that they can discover other Japanese music with and get some of the fun that I got out of Japanese music, then I feel like my job is done. It's like turning someone onto your record collection, you know what I mean? And so there's a lot of stuff that people in America haven't heard that I really think that people would get a ton of enjoyment out of it, even though the language is different. But there's just such a new thing out there. So I kind of did it my way to get you into it. Once you're in there, then you're on your own. And I really can't wait to get to America and play it for these people, and get to Nashville, where I've got so many good memories, and I haven't played there in a couple of years. So really looking forward to it.
I think people are really going to embrace this album and all of the singles on it too, Marty. And I think, also listening to the entire album, I could see it easily being used in TV and film as well, just because there's so much dynamic and just so many different tones within it. So I think it's great that you're able to meld two totally different styles and make them your own only the way you can. So Marty Friedman, thank you for coming on the Rock and Review and talking with us about your brand new album.
Thank you very much, Eric. I appreciate your knowledge of everything. It really makes it easy for me.
Sponsored by the Big 98, Nashville's #1 for new country and the home of the Bobby Bones Show.